The school shooting in Parkland, Florida has activists and legislators pushing for solutions ranging from gun control to mental health. Some pastors are seeking a more spiritual solution. They'd like to see prayer put back in school, and they're starting a petition drive to make that happen. And joining me now are Pastor Orlando Goodhope of Chesapeake Christian Center in Chesapeake, Virginia, and Irvin M. Scott, pastor of New Rose of Sharon Elam Baptist Church in Chesapeake as well. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you as well.
Pastor Goodhope, let's begin with you. First of all, you believe there's a spiritual side of these attacks that needs to be addressed. Tell us more about that.
Well, we see that there are so many attempts right now to answer the question of why these shootings are occurring and why our children are being slaughtered in the manners that they are. We know there is a holistic approach that we must take. We know that gun laws have to be challenged. We know that mental health issues have to be challenged. But we are spiritual people. We understand that it all starts in the spirit world. So we're asking that the spiritual aspect be addressed as well.
And Pastor Scott, how will prayer in schools help?
Thank you, Mr. Muff, for this opportunity to speak. I think prayer would help in school. First of all, it would bring unity back to our communities. It would bring unity back to our homes. And matter of fact, it would bring unity even back to our country. I believe that a family that prays together stays together.
Yeah, very true. Amen to that. Well, what are you proposing, Pastor Goodhope? Is it teacher-led prayer or school-sponsored prayer? Kind of break it down for us.
Well, we're not looking for teacher-sponsored prayer. What we're asking is that there be a designated time set aside for prayer for our students in school. We just want to designate that time for those children who want to. This is not being forced upon. This is not something that has to be scripted. It's just an acknowledgement that there is a time set aside for prayer. Let's be proactive versus reactive.
And would you say, Pastor Goodhope, that this is open to students of all faiths? Of
all faiths. They can pray a prayer. Everybody knows, in some sense, to ask for protection. So if they're Islamic, they can pray a prayer of protection. If you're Hindu, you can pray a prayer of protection. But if you're a Christian, you can pray a prayer of protection. No one is going to give you any structured prayer. You can pray a prayer of protection. Hopefully parents are encouraging their kids to do that.
And Pastor Scott, talk about maybe specifically how prayer in schools can address violence that's been going on, address the violence and prevent that from happening.
Well, prayer can help in various different ways. Number one, I would suggest strongly that prayer will bring a conscience to wrongness before the action actually take place. Prayer has a way in bringing us back into unity, bringing us back under subjection to the extent that we'll be able to distinguish right from wrong before the action even take place.
Very true. Well, tell us about your plans for a petition, Pastor Goodhope. What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, we see that at the end of all of these shootings that we have seen over the last few years, that prayer vigils are conducted. They go right to the very campuses and they pray. They have that done right. I mean, you have governors who come down, you have presidents who come down, you have all kind of officials who come down and pray in the very places that prayer is supposedly not supposed to be conducted. So what we're expecting to happen is that with this prayer petition, that people will go out, they will vote. They're actually going to follow 4 steps, and I have written those down, but we're going to ask them to sign a petition to alert their legislators. We want them to contact their legislators and let them know we want to have prayer brought back in school. We're going to organize prayer marches that will go around schools. We're asking churches to pick up the banner and see that, these schools are unprotected. And until this law is passed, until this happens, we can do something about that. We can go out and pray for our schools. And last but not least, we want them to share this idea, continue to share this idea throughout the nation until this is ratified.
Let's talk a little bit more about that sharing, Pastor Scott. Talk about how churches can get on board and get the word out.
That's a very good question. How churches can get involved. First of all, I believe that the churches should come together and begin to fast again. And the reality of fasting will help us to understand the nature that we are dealing with. And so by the pastors leading this effort in their various different congregations, hoping that that will motivate and see the significance and importance why we need to put prayer back in school.
All right. Anything else that you want to say, Pastor Goodhope or Pastor Scott, about this initiative to get prayer back in schools?
there are several things we can go into, but what we're hoping to accomplish with all of this being done is that the awareness is brought back to America, that we are a praying nation. We were founded on prayer. It's what kept us through the dark hours of our country's history. And we're now approaching those dark hours again. We can see it every day, that these are very dark times, and we need to have some kind of a guidance, and prayer brings that guidance.
And Pastor Scott, any final words?
Yes, based on that question that you just finished asking, prayer to our country, our nation will be very important because we are the greatest country in the world. I believe if we have a spirit healthy church, first of all, the country as a whole will begin to pray for God's joy. Irregardless what our nationality are, we will be praying for joy. Secondly, I believe if the country will come together as one and pray for God's forward movement, a lot of these hindrances, a lot of these killings, a lot of these hiccups that we're having now would be prevented. And the final and last piece, we will be a country that will stand out, and when other countries are in trouble, they'll be able to come to America because prayer will set the standards for all opportunities for people who are considered to be the downtrodden, the outcast, or whatever that case may be.
Okay, Pastor Orlando Goodhope and Pastor Irvin Scott, thank you so much for your time today and for this initiative. Blessings to you on this.